about the email controversy. I want to bring in Austan Goolsbee right now, former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. He did serve under President Obama's cabinet. Fox Business senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino joins me here in our New York studio. So she was talking about the email controversy, but Austan, I want to talk about the cap gain stuff. It seems to me that she's doing what I guess I'd be doing too if I was running on the Democratic ticket. I'd be going populist. I'd be attacking the wealthy. Isn't this just in the simplest terms what she's doing, Austan?
I don't think so. I memean, in this announcement today, it's not a tax increase. They're increasing short-term capital gains, and they're giving back the money by cutting capital gains on some small business investments and longer-term stuff. It's just trying to change the focus of investors to be more long-term.
So you're saying that this is revenue neutral,
there's anything wrong with that. I think it's good.
You're saying this is revenue neutral, then? That's your stance?
Yeah, that's their goal. They're not trying to use this to raise revenue. They're trying to change the orientation to be longer term.
Charlie?
Austin's a very savvy economist. I like him personally.
I like him too.
But I need to ask him this one question. Do you really think activist investing is the problem that she made it out to be? Do you really think that the President of the United States should be weighing in on stock buybacks? My guess is, well, listen, you can say what you want about President Obama and how he handled the economy. I disagree with it. But at least he thought bigger picture. We have now the potential president, the leader of the free world, weighing in on stock buybacks, short-termism, some dopey capital gains thing, which I don't know. It's kind of like some capital gains, I guess, are good and some aren't. It really seems like small potatoes, doesn't it, Austin?
Well, I'll say, look, I think we know that the short-termism is a problem. It may not be the only problem facing the country.
But how do we know? There's been no studies that. I know Larry Fink. Maybe you and Larry Fink go on the campaign trail saying it costs jobs. Give it all to me right now. Studies.
Austin, go ahead. Austin, go ahead.
A, there are studies. B, we have in the tax code now a higher short-term capital gains rate than a long-term rate. Is your view that we should never have done that to begin with?
I mean, there are studies.
We debated at the time, Austin. Actually,
to try to prevent people from buying and selling the same stock.
We debated that on the Business Network, Austin, actually, at the time, and we have not seen economic growth really pick up. In truth, and you and I know disagree with that.
But I have not seen studies that day trading is somehow bad for the economy. I've not seen studies that Nelson Peltz and Carl Icahn somehow pose this grave economic threat because they force Apple or DuPont to do stock buybacks. I don't see those studies.
Charlie, it sounds to me like your point is that she has nobody else to go after. Is that what you're kind of saying here to me? That there's no one else, that she can't go after Goldman because she needs their money when it comes to campaign time.
And that's a great point. And here's what I think. I wonder if Austin will agree with me. She's taken so much money from the banks, both in the Clinton Foundation and from her own coffers and her own speeches, by the way. That was the worst speech in the world. Could you imagine paying someone $400,000 to listen to that nonsense for 2 hours? But she does that. She gets all this money from Goldman. She gets all this money from Blackstone and guys like Tony James, out there in private equity land.
So she can't go after.
So she goes after this really narrow part of Wall Street as this huge economic problem, which even if you take her at its word, it's such small potatoes.
Austin, do you think that's her strategy?
That's not a logical. As a logical argument, this is like when the people say, well, give us one example of something you cut from the budget. And then they say, okay, well, here's an example. And then they say, well, that thing is not very big. That's not a logical critique.
Oh, yes, it is.
About it,
she's got no one else to go after, so she goes after these clowns who don't mean anything.
This is not the only element of her economic plan. This is a small policy, but it is an important idea. The issue of short-term activist investors not wanting companies like Apple or somebody else to invest the money in capital expenditures.
Give me one name. You're an economist.
Give me.
Can you give me one name of an activist investor that's out there hurting the economy right now?
I will give you many names of activist investors who are asking for money to be paid out rather than invested.
Is Carl Icahn
asking for them to pay out the cash rather than invest it?
Is Carl Icahn bad?
I didn't say bad. You're trying to pass moral
Is Nelson
judgment.
Peltz bad?
I am emphasizing
Is Dan Loeb a
that
bad
we
guy?
want long-term investment.
Okay.
I'm just saying that they don't come up. The Hillary Clinton has no stats, no studies. Larry Fink, who basically wrote this speech for her. Let's face it, it's
Charlie,
such a joke.
let me pick up on that, though.
Who wants to be a
I know
Treasury
what you're
Secretary?
saying. Look, I know what you're saying. And,
Right.
it's funny because Austin and I first met back in, I think it was 2007, Austin. You were with President Obama down here at the NASDAQ in New York. That's when you and I first met. You were with him, and you were advising him on economic policy at the time. Is this politics? Isn't this just what you do? You go after the rich. You go after Wall Street. You
you're a
get the
Democrat,
nomination, because he didn't have the nomination at the time.
This is a pro-market
and then you
reform.
go center.
If you were anti-market, why would you be trying to just readjust people to be longer-term investors instead of short-term investors?
Why didn't you come up with this idea if it's so great?
Bernie Sanders.
Oh, wait a second. You're a smart
is,
guy. Why didn't you come up with this thing if it was so great?
I think it's a good idea.
Well, then why didn't you
I'm
come
not
up
in
with
the
it?
government.
Why didn't you come up with all the taxes you guys came up with? You missed this
I'm embarrassed.
No, Austin, it's because you're smart. You're actually enjoying your life.
Because he knows. He won't say it. He knows this is nonsense. That's the whole thing.
It's not nonsense.
You know
we
it's a
need
joke.
to get
Come
away
on.
from just caring about quarterly earnings.
Carl Icahn is a bad guy. Nelson Peltz, they're ruining the
I'm
country.
going to quote
Dan
him that you
Loeb,
said
oh God.
that.
You didn't
I'm a quote.
say
If
that.
it weren't for Dan Loeb, we'd have so many more jobs out there.
You heard him. Charlie just said Carl Icahn is a bad guy. You heard him.
Oh, we got him. All right, very funny. Austin Goolsbee.
Run the tape.
It was good to see you, Austin. Thank you very much for
Great
being
to see
here.
you.